The blood appeared first, bright red against Imani Johnson's brown skin, and then came the realization that the boy had actually bitten her. Not a playful nip or an accident, but a desperate, animal bite that broke through the flesh of her forearm. Tyler Whitmore, the 16-year-old son of billionaire Gregory Whitmore, sat hunched in the corner of his bedroom, his pale face streaked with tears, his jaw still trembling from the violence he had just committed. Most people would have screamed. Most would have run from the room, called the police, demanded justice. Imani did none of these things. Instead, she wrapped a nearby towel around her bleeding arm, lowered herself to the floor beside the traumatized teenager, and asked in a voice so gentle it could break hearts, "What's hurting you so badly that you needed to hurt me?" The question hung in the air of the massive bedroom, a space larger than the entire apartment Imani shared with her grandmother across town. Tyler's eyes, hollow and rimmed with exhaustion that no 16-year-old should carry, widened at her words. He had expected anger, expected consequences, expected to be abandoned like everyone else had abandoned him in the 2 years since his mother died. What he got instead was a 27-year-old maid with natural curls pulled back in a practical bun, sitting cross-legged on his floor, looking at him not with fear or disgust but with something that resembled understanding. The bedroom door burst open and Mrs. Dorothy Evans, the head housekeeper, rushed in with 2 other staff members. They froze at the scene before them, the blood, the crying boy, and Imani sitting calmly as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "Miss Johnson, we need to get you to the hospital," Mrs. Evans said, her voice sharp with concern and anger. "Tyler, your father will hear about this immediately." "Please don't," Imani said, still looking at Tyler. "I'm okay. He didn't mean it." "He bit you," one of the other maids whispered, horrified. Tyler's body began to shake with sobs, great heaving sounds that seemed too large for his thin frame. He had stopped eating properly months ago, stopped caring about anything months ago, and now he had hurt someone who had only been trying to clean his room. The shame crashed over him in waves, but beneath it was something else, something dangerous and dark that whispered he deserved to feel this pain forever. Imani recognized that darkness. She had seen it before, in someone she loved, and she had missed the signs until it was too late. "Tyler," she said softly, ignoring the shocked faces of the other staff members. "I'm not leaving you right now, okay? We're going to sit here together, and when you're ready, we can talk." Mrs. Evans made a frustrated sound. "Miss Johnson, you're bleeding. We need to follow protocol." "I'll get it looked at in a moment," Imani replied, her voice kind but firm. "Right now, this is more important." The other staff members exchanged glances, unsure what to do. In the 18 months since Imani had started working at the Whitmore mansion, she had proven herself to be reliable, professional, and kind to everyone. But this was different. This was dangerous. This could be a lawsuit, a police matter, a scandal for one of the wealthiest families in the city. Yet here she sat, treating the situation like a child who had skinned his knee rather than a violent attack. Mrs. Evans, recognizing that forcing Imani to leave would only escalate Tyler's distress, made a decision. "I'm calling Mr. Whitmore," she said firmly. "He's in his downtown office, but he needs to know about this immediately. And I'm getting the first aid kit." As the other staff members left, Imani remained on the floor. Tyler's sobs had quieted to hiccuping breaths, and he kept looking at her arm, at the blood seeping through the white towel, with an expression of absolute horror at what he had done. The bite mark throbbed with each beat of Imani's heart, and she knew it would need stitches, but something told her that leaving this boy alone right now would be more damaging than any physical wound. She had learned the hard way that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone in pain is simply to stay, to refuse to abandon them even when they lash out, even when they hurt you. "My little brother used to bite his hand when he got really upset," Imani said quietly. He couldn't find words for what he was feeling, so his body found other ways to express it. "Is that what happened just now? Did the feelings get too big for words?" Tyler looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. His grey eyes, so much like his mother's according to the photos displayed throughout the mansion, were filled with a mixture of confusion and desperate hope. No one had asked him about his feelings in so long. His father worked 18-hour days, lost in building his business empire. The therapists his father hired spoke at him, not to him, prescribing pills that made him feel numb without making him feel better. The kids at school, The few friends he used to have before his mother died had stopped trying to reach him after months of rejection. Could you ever forgive someone who hurt you when they were drowning in their own pain? Could compassion really be stronger than anger? What would you have done in Imani's position, run away or stayed to help? Gregory Whitmore arrived at the mansion within 30 minutes, a record time considering his office was across the city. His silver hair was disheveled from running his hands through it. During the frantic drive home, and his tailored suit jacket hung unbuttoned, revealing the stress of a man who had just received the worst kind of phone call. He burst into his son's bedroom to find Imani still sitting on the floor with Tyler, though Mrs. Evans had managed to clean and bandage Imani's arm. The bite mark had been deep enough to warrant stitches, but Imani had refused to leave until Tyler had calmed down completely. "Miss Johnson," Gregory said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "I am deeply sorry for what my son has done. We will cover all medical expenses, of course, and I will understand completely if you wish to press charges or pursue legal action. I'll also provide you with 6 months' salary as compensation for this incident, whether you choose to continue working here or not." Imani stood up slowly, dusting off her uniform. "Mr. Whitmore, I don't want to press charges, and I don't need compensation beyond my regular pay and the medical coverage you mentioned." Gregory blinked, clearly thrown off balance. In his world, everything could be solved with money, with legal settlements, with calculated responses to potential lawsuits. This young woman, who earned a fraction of what he made in an hour for an entire week of work, was refusing additional money. It made no sense. "I don't understand," he said carefully. "My son attacked you. You're being more than generous, but surely you can see this is a serious matter." "It is a serious matter," Imani agreed. "But not in the way you think. Mr. Whitmore, your son needs help. Real help. Not punishment, not money to make the problem go away, but actual support and care." Tyler, who had been silent since his father arrived, looked between them with wide eyes. He had expected to be sent away to some facility, locked up somewhere out of sight where his father wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. That's what happened to broken things in their world. They were removed, replaced, forgotten. "He's been seeing therapists," Gregory said defensively. "I've hired the best psychiatrists money can buy. With respect, sir, when was the last time you sat down and talked to Tyler yourself? Not about his appointments or his medication, but really talked to him?" Imani's voice was gentle, but her words landed like stones in still water. Gregory's face hardened. "Miss Johnson, I appreciate your concern, but my relationship with my son is not your business. I called you here as a witness to discuss the incident and determine the appropriate course of action." "Dad," Tyler's voice was barely above a whisper, but it stopped both adults mid-conversation. "She's right. You don't talk to me. You pay people to talk to me." The silence that followed was heavy with years of unspoken grief and growing distance. Gregory looked at his son, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time in months. He saw how thin Tyler had become, how the light had gone out of eyes that used to sparkle with curiosity and joy. He saw a ghost of the boy who used to run to greet him at the door, who used to share every detail of his day over dinner, who used to laugh at terrible dad jokes and beg for just one more story before bed. When had that boy disappeared? When had this hollow shell taken his place? "I'm trying to provide for you," Gregory said, and his voice cracked just slightly. "Everything I do is to make sure you have the best life possible." "I don't need the best life," Tyler said, tears starting again. "I just need my dad. I need someone to notice that I'm drowning. Mom's gone, and I feel like I'm drowning every single day, and you're not even here to see it." Imani quietly moved toward the door, sensing this was a moment the father and son needed alone. But Gregory's voice stopped her. "Please stay," he said, and the billionaire who commanded boardrooms and built empires sounded lost. "Clearly you understand something about this situation that I don't. Tyler, tell me what you need. Tell me what I'm missing." Tyler looked at Imani, as if seeking permission or courage, and she gave him an encouraging nod. "I need you to be home for dinner sometimes. I need you to remember that I exist beyond just being another problem to solve with money. When I bit Imani, I was trying to make someone, anyone, see that I was here, that I was hurting. But she already saw me. She saw me without me having to do something terrible first. Gregory sat down heavily on his son's bed, and for a moment, he looked every one of his 58 years. I threw myself into work after your mother died because I didn't know how else to cope. If I stayed busy enough, I didn't have to feel the loss. I didn't realize I was losing you too in the process. Mr. Whitmore, Imani said gently. If you're willing, I'd like to suggest something. Tyler needs professional help, absolutely, but he also needs connection. He needs to know he's not alone in this house, in his grief. Would you consider family therapy? And maybe finding a psychiatrist who specializes in adolescent grief specifically? Gregory nodded slowly. Yes. Yes, whatever it takes. Tyler, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I haven't been here for you. He looked at Imani. And Miss Johnson, I want to offer you a different position. Not as a maid, but as a companion to Tyler. Someone who can be here when I can't, someone he clearly trusts. I'll triple your current salary, and you can set your own hours around his schedule. Imani felt tears prick her own eyes. The money would change everything for her and her grandmother, would pay off medical bills that had been crushing them for years. But more than that, she could help this broken family heal. I accept, Mr. Whitmore. Thank you. I'll do everything I can to help Tyler. Tyler looked between them, and something like hope flickered in his grey eyes for the first time in months. Maybe he wasn't beyond saving after all. 3 days after the incident, Imani sat in Tyler's room again, but this time by invitation rather than duty. Her arm was in a proper bandage now, stitched and healing, and Tyler hadn't been able to stop apologizing every time he saw it. Dr. Patricia Hayes, a psychiatrist specializing in adolescent trauma and grief, had done an emergency evaluation and confirmed what Imani had suspected. Tyler was in crisis, suffering from severe depression complicated by unresolved grief over his mother's death. You don't have to keep saying sorry, Imani said as Tyler apologized for the 100th time. I know you weren't trying to hurt me specifically. You were trying to hurt the pain. Tyler sat on his bed, hugging a pillow to his chest. How can you just forgive me like that? I bit you hard enough that you needed stitches. Imani was quiet for a moment, looking out the massive windows at the perfectly manicured grounds below. She had debated whether to share her story, whether it was appropriate, but something told her Tyler needed to hear it. 3 years ago, my little brother Jamal died. He was 14, and he killed himself. Tyler's head snapped up, his eyes wide. Oh God, Imani, I'm so sorry. Thank you, she said softly. Jamal had been struggling for about a year before it happened. He was sad all the time, angry sometimes, pulling away from family and friends. I noticed, but I didn't understand what I was seeing. I thought he was just being a moody teenager. I got frustrated with him when he snapped at me. I told him to stop being so dramatic when he said he didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't know those were warning signs. I didn't know he was asking for help in the only way he knew how. A tear rolled down Tyler's cheek. It wasn't your fault. I know that now, after a lot of therapy of my own, Imani said. But it took me a long time to accept it. For the first year after Jamal died, I blamed myself for everything. Every harsh word I'd said to him, every time I'd been too busy to talk, every sign I'd missed. The guilt almost destroyed me too. Is that why you stayed? After I bit you? Tyler asked quietly. Imani nodded. When I saw you in that corner, hurting so badly that you lashed out, I saw Jamal. I saw all the moments I missed with him, all the times he was screaming for help and I didn't hear it. I couldn't walk away from you, Tyler. I couldn't miss another person's pain when they were showing it to me so clearly. Tyler was silent for a long time, processing this. Finally, he asked, does it get better? The pain? Yes, Imani said firmly. But not on its own. You have to do the work. You have to talk to Dr. Hayes, take the medication if it helps, and most importantly, you have to let people in. Your dad, me, eventually maybe friends your own age. You can't heal in isolation. I don't remember how to let people in, Tyler admitted. After Mom died, I felt like I had to be strong for Dad. He was falling apart, and someone had to hold it together. But I wasn't holding it together. I was just pretending, and eventually I couldn't even pretend anymore. So I stopped trying to do anything at all. Your mom died 2 years ago, right? Imani asked gently. Tyler nodded. Car accident. Some guy ran a red light and hit her driver's side door. She died instantly. 1 minute I'm texting her about what we should have for dinner, and the next minute Dad is picking me up from school with police officers and his face is all wrong and I just knew. I knew before he said anything. That's trauma, Tyler. That's a wound just as real as the bite mark on my arm. And just like my arm needs time and care to heal properly, your trauma needs treatment too. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. I dream about her sometimes, Tyler whispered. But in my dreams, she's angry at me. She's disappointed that I'm messing everything up, that I'm making Dad sad, that I'm not the son she thought I was. Imani moved to sit beside him on the bed. Tyler, those dreams are your own fears talking. Your mom loved you. I've seen the photos all over this house, and in every single one where you're together, she's looking at you like you hung the moon. That kind of love doesn't turn into disappointment just because you're struggling. I miss her so much, Tyler said, and then he was crying again, but this time he leaned against Imani's shoulder and let himself cry without shame. She wrapped her good arm around him and let him grieve, understanding that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is simply be present while someone falls apart. After his tears subsided, Tyler asked quietly, "Do you still miss Jamal?" "Every single day," Imani answered honestly. "But I've learned to carry the missing differently. Instead of letting it crush me, I try to honor his memory by paying attention when others are hurting. By being the person I wish I'd been for him. That's part of why I'm here with you now. I want to get better," Tyler said. "I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to hurt people. I just don't know where to start." "You already started," Imani said with a small smile. "You're talking about it. You're admitting you need help. Those are the hardest steps, and you just took them." For the first time since his mother's death, Tyler felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward through the darkness. Gregory Whitmore sat in his home office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. The quarterly reports blurred together, meaningless numbers that usually consumed his attention but now felt trivial compared to the realization slowly crystallizing in his mind. He had failed his son. Not financially, not in terms of providing the best schools, doctors, or material possessions, but in the most fundamental way a father can fail, by not being present. The door to his office opened, and Imani appeared with a lunch tray. "Mr. Whitmore, Mrs. Evans asked me to bring this up. She's worried you haven't eaten today." Gregory looked at the food without appetite. "Thank you, Miss Johnson. Actually, do you have a moment? I'd like to ask you something." Imani set the tray down and took a seat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Of course. How did you know?" Gregory asked. "How did you look at Tyler that day and understand what he needed when I, his own father, couldn't see it?" Imani considered the question carefully. "I don't think it's that you couldn't see it, Mr. Whitmore. I think grief affects everyone differently. You lost your wife, Tyler lost his mother, but you both had to keep functioning somehow. You threw yourself into work. Tyler withdrew into himself. Neither way is wrong, but when two people cope differently, they can lose sight of each other." "Rachel would be ashamed of me," Gregory said quietly. "The way I've handled things since she died. The way I've let Tyler suffer while I buried myself in spreadsheets and board meetings. Your wife loved you both very much, from what Tyler's told me about her," Imani said. "I don't think she'd be ashamed. I think she'd be worried, just like you're worried now. But the important thing is you're recognizing the problem and trying to fix it." Gregory stood and walked to the window, looking out at the same view his son saw from his room. "I watched you with Tyler yesterday through the security footage. The two of you were playing chess, and he laughed. Did you hear that? He laughed. I haven't heard my son laugh since before Rachel died. He's starting to feel safe again," Imani explained. "Depression builds walls between you and joy. It tells you that you don't deserve to be happy, that nothing will ever be good again. Breaking through those walls takes time and trust. Tyler is learning that it's okay to have moments of happiness even while he's still grieving. I want to be part of that," Gregory said, turning to face her. I want to be someone who makes him feel safe again. But I don't know how. I don't know how to talk to him anymore without it feeling forced or awkward. Start small, Imani suggested. Tonight, have dinner with him. Not in your office, not with work calls interrupting, but in the dining room. Ask him about his day. Tell him about yours. Share a memory of his mom. You don't have to fix everything in one conversation. You just have to show up consistently. Gregory nodded slowly. Will you join us? For dinner. I think it would help Tyler feel more comfortable, and honestly, it might help me too. I'd be happy to, Imani said. But Mr. Whitmore, eventually it needs to be just the two of you. I can be support, but I can't be the bridge between you and your son forever. You have to rebuild that connection yourselves. I understand, Gregory said. One more thing, Miss Johnson. I'd like to make my offer from the other day more formal. I've spoken with Dr. Hayes, and she agrees that having you as a consistent presence in Tyler's life, separate from traditional therapy, could be very beneficial for his recovery. In addition to the salary increase, I'd like to cover any educational expenses if you'd like to pursue further training. Dr. Hayes mentioned you have a natural ability for this kind of work. Imani felt her heart skip. Mr. Whitmore, that's incredibly generous, but I only have a high school diploma. I couldn't possibly. You saved my son's life, Gregory interrupted gently. The day you refused to leave him, the day you chose compassion over anger, you saved him. Money is the least I can offer. If you want to go to college, study psychology or counseling or anything else, I'll cover every penny. No strings attached, whether you continue working here or not. Consider it a gift, or if that makes you uncomfortable, consider it an investment in someone who clearly has the calling for this work. Tears welled in Imani's eyes. She had dreamed of going to college, of maybe becoming a social worker or counselor, but her family's financial situation had made it impossible. I don't know what to say except thank you. This is life-changing, Mr. Whitmore. Truly life-changing. You've changed my life by caring about my son when you had every right to walk away, Gregory said. This is me trying to pay forward the gift you've given us. So yes, please accept. And please, call me Gregory. You're not just staff anymore, Imani. You're family. That evening, the three of them sat down to dinner together. Mrs. Evans had prepared Tyler's favorite meal from before his mother died, chicken parmesan with garlic bread and Caesar salad. At first, conversation was stilted and awkward, but Imani gently prompted both Whitmore men to share stories about their day. Gregory talked about a funny thing that happened in a meeting. Tyler shared something Dr. Hayes had discussed in their session. And slowly, carefully, they began to feel like a family again, or at least like people who were learning to care about each other's daily lives. Dad, Tyler said toward the end of the meal. Thank you for being here tonight. For not working through dinner. Gregory reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. I'm going to be here a lot more from now on. I promise. I've already cancelled my evening meetings for the next month. Dinner time is now Tyler time. Tyler smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, and Gregory felt his heart crack open with love and regret and hope all at once. There was a long road ahead, but at least now they were walking it together. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Tyler saw Dr. Hayes 3 times a week, took his medication consistently, and spent his afternoons with Imani. They developed their own routine, one that balanced structure with flexibility depending on how Tyler felt each day. Some days were good, where they could take walks around the estate or work on jigsaw puzzles in the library. Other days were hard, where Tyler could barely get out of bed and Imani would sit on the floor of his room, reading aloud or just keeping him company in the silence. Gregory kept his promise about dinner, coming home each evening at 6 o'clock sharp. The first week, Tyler had been skeptical, waiting for his father to cancel or make excuses. But Gregory showed up every single night, sometimes still in his suit from the office, sometimes having changed into casual clothes. They talked about everything and nothing, Rachel's memory woven through their conversations like a golden thread connecting their grief. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after the incident, Imani brought a box of board games to Tyler's room. Dr. Hayes suggested we try some low-stakes activities that involve decision-making and mild competition. She thinks it might help you practice engaging with the world in a safe way. Tyler looked at the box skeptically. Board games? Really? Trust me, Imani said with a grin. I'm deadly at Monopoly. You'll regret underestimating me. They set up the game on the floor, and Tyler picked the race car piece while Imani chose the thimble. As they played, buying properties and building houses, something interesting happened. Tyler started strategizing, thinking ahead, engaging with the game in a way that required him to be present in the moment rather than lost in his dark thoughts. When Imani landed on his property with 3 houses and had to pay a significant rent, Tyler laughed. It was a short laugh, barely more than a chuckle, but it was real. Imani looked up at him, her face breaking into a wide smile. There it is. I was wondering when I'd hear that sound. Tyler's smile faded slightly, guilt creeping in. Is it okay to laugh when Mom's gone? Tyler, your mom would want you to laugh, Imani said firmly. Grief doesn't mean you can never feel joy again. It means you carry both, the sadness and the happiness, and you honor the person you lost by continuing to live fully. I forget that sometimes, Tyler admitted. I forget that feeling okay doesn't mean I'm forgetting her. They finished the game, which Imani won handily, much to Tyler's mock outrage. As they were cleaning up, Tyler asked, "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" Of course. How did you afford therapy after Jamal died? I know it's expensive, and you mentioned your family has medical bills. Imani was quiet for a moment. I didn't, at first. I tried to handle it on my own, and I nearly fell apart completely. But there's a community mental health center near where I live that offers sliding scale fees based on income. I paid $20 a session, which was still hard to manage, but it saved my life. Not everyone knows those resources exist, but they're out there for people who can't afford private therapy. Tyler processed this information. So people who don't have money like my dad, they can still get help? Yes, though it's often harder to access and there might be waiting lists. The mental health system isn't perfect, especially for people without resources. But help exists if you know where to look. That doesn't seem fair, Tyler said thoughtfully. That someone's ability to get better depends on how much money they have. It's not fair, Imani agreed. But that's the world we live in right now. Tyler fell silent, but something was working in his mind, an idea taking shape that he wasn't ready to share yet. Meanwhile, downstairs, Gregory was making his own small steps forward. He had started sorting through Rachel's belongings, not to erase her but to integrate her memory into their daily life in a healthier way. Instead of keeping her office exactly as she'd left it, a shrine that felt more like denial than tribute, he created a memory wall in the living room with photos from throughout their life together. Happy moments, silly moments, ordinary moments that had once seemed unremarkable but now felt precious beyond measure. Mrs. Evans found him there one evening, hanging the last picture. "Those are beautiful, Mr. Whitmore. Mrs. Rachel would love this." "She would, wouldn't she?" Gregory said softly. "She always said life should be celebrated, not hidden away. I think I've been hiding from life since she died, and in doing so, I taught Tyler to hide too." "You're both learning to come back," Mrs. Evans said kindly. "Miss Imani is a blessing to this house." "She really is," Gregory agreed. "I don't know what we would have done without her." Upstairs, Tyler was writing in the journal Dr. Hayes had given him. The assignment was to write one thing he was grateful for each day. Today he wrote, "I'm grateful for Imani. She sees me as a person, not just as a problem to fix. She makes me feel like maybe I can be okay again someday." Today we played Monopoly and I laughed. It felt good and guilty at the same time, but mostly good. Maybe Dr. Hayes is right and I can carry both the sad and the happy together. Also, Dad came home for dinner again tonight. That's 21 days in a row. I didn't think he'd actually keep his promise, but he has. It feels like maybe we're becoming a family again, even though Mom isn't here. I think she'd be happy about that. Small steps, Imani had told him. Recovery wasn't a straight line but a series of small steps forward, some steps back, and slowly finding your way through the darkness. Tyler was starting to believe her. The breakthrough came on a quiet Thursday afternoon nearly 2 months after the biting incident. Tyler and Imani were watching a comedy movie in the home theater, something Dr. Hayes had suggested as part of exposure to positive emotions. The movie was silly, full of slapstick humor and ridiculous situations, and Tyler had been watching with mild interest but no real engagement. Then came a scene where the main character accidentally launched himself through a window using a homemade catapult, and something inside Tyler just broke open. He started laughing. Not a polite chuckle or a small smile, but real, genuine, belly-deep laughter that shook his whole body. He laughed so hard tears streamed down his face, and he couldn't catch his breath. Imani started laughing too, more at Tyler's reaction than the movie itself, and for a full minute they were just two people sharing joy without any shadows hanging over them. When the laughter finally subsided, Tyler wiped his eyes and looked at Imani with wonder. "I forgot I could do that. Laugh like that, where it just takes over everything." "It was beautiful," Imani said warmly. "How do you feel?" "Lighter," Tyler said, and he sounded surprised. "Like something heavy I've been carrying just got a little bit easier." "Is that weird?" "That's healing," Imani told him. "That's what it feels like when you start to come back to yourself." Unknown to them, Gregory had been passing by the theater room and heard the laughter. He stopped in the hallway, his hand pressed against his chest as emotion overwhelmed him. That sound, his son's genuine laughter, was something he had desperately missed but had almost given up hope of ever hearing again. He stood there for several minutes, just listening, tears streaming down his own face. When the movie ended and Imani and Tyler emerged from the theater, they found Gregory waiting in the hallway. His eyes were red, but his smile was radiant. "Tyler, I heard you laughing." "Really laughing?" Tyler's face flushed with embarrassment. "Dad, you were listening." "I couldn't help it," Gregory admitted. "That's the best sound I've heard in 2 years. Since before your mom." His voice cracked on the last word. Tyler crossed the distance between them and hugged his father, something he hadn't done since the funeral. Gregory wrapped his arms around his son and held on tight, both of them crying but also somehow healing in that embrace. Imani stood back, giving them space, her own eyes damp with happy tears. When they finally pulled apart, Gregory kept his hands on Tyler's shoulders. "I want you to know how proud I am of you. How hard you're working to get better, how brave you are to keep trying even on the difficult days. Your mother would be so proud too." "I wish she could see this," Tyler said softly. "I wish she could know that I'm trying." "She knows," Gregory said with certainty. "Wherever she is, she knows. And she's cheering you on." They moved to the living room, sitting together in front of the memory wall Gregory had created. For hours, they looked at pictures and shared stories. Gregory told Tyler things he'd never shared before, about how he and Rachel met, about her terrible sense of direction that led to accidental adventures, about her ugly crying at sad movies and her competitive streak during family game nights. Tyler shared his memories too, things he'd been too afraid to speak aloud, worried that voicing them would make the loss more real. Imani joined them after a while, at Gregory's insistence. She listened to their stories, asked gentle questions, and helped them remember the woman they both loved without drowning in the sadness of her absence. It was one of those sacred evenings that changes everything, where a family begins to truly heal. Later that night, after Tyler had gone to bed, Gregory found Imani in the kitchen making tea. "Imani, I need to talk to you about something." She turned, concerned by his serious tone. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay," Gregory assured her. "Today, hearing Tyler laugh like that, seeing him hug me without hesitation, I realized something. You've given me my son back. You've given us both a second chance at being a family. The salary increase isn't enough. The education funding isn't enough. I want to do more. Mr. Whitmore." "Gregory, you've already done so much. Please, let me finish," Gregory said. "I've set up a trust fund for you. It's substantial enough that you'll never have to worry about money again, whether you choose to continue your education, start a business, or anything else. And before you protest, this isn't charity. This is gratitude. This is recognition that some gifts can't be measured in money, but money is what I have to give." Imani felt overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever imagined. All I did was care about Tyler. That shouldn't require this kind of reward." "That's exactly why you deserve it," Gregory said gently. Because you didn't do it for reward. You did it because you're a genuinely good person with a gift for understanding pain. Please accept this. Let me do this one thing that feels remotely adequate compared to what you've done for my family. Imani nodded, tears flowing freely now. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. This will change my grandmother's life too. She's been working 2 jobs just to keep up with her medication costs. Bring her by this weekend, Gregory said impulsively. I'd like to meet the woman who raised someone as remarkable as you. We'll have a family dinner, all of us together. As Imani left the kitchen, Gregory stood alone for a moment, thinking about the strange path life takes. 2 months ago, his son had bitten a maid in a moment of desperate pain. Today, that same maid had become his family's savior, and he was more grateful than he'd ever been for anything in his life. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the greatest blessings, if you're willing to see them clearly. Have you ever witnessed a moment where everything shifted from darkness to light? When did you last allow yourself to truly laugh without guilt or reservation? Sometimes our breakthroughs come from the most unexpected sources, don't they? Saturday arrived with nervous energy filling the Whitmore mansion. Tyler had cleaned his room without being asked. Gregory had personally helped Mrs. Evans prepare the dining room to feel warm rather than formal, and Imani was picking up her grandmother from their apartment across town. Gloria Johnson, at 72 years old, had raised Imani after her daughter died in childbirth and had worked as a nurse until arthritis forced her into early retirement. She was small but mighty, with silver hair braided in intricate patterns and eyes that missed nothing. Baby girl, are you sure about this? Gloria asked as they drove through the increasingly affluent neighborhoods leading to the Whitmore estate. Rich folks and regular folks don't usually mix well. Grandma, they're not like that, Imani assured her. Gregory and Tyler are good people who've been through something terrible. They're just trying to find their way back. When they pulled up to the mansion gates, Gloria's eyes widened. Lord have mercy, this is where you work. This looks like something from a television show. Gregory and Tyler were waiting at the front door to greet them, both looking slightly nervous. Gregory stepped forward first, extending his hand to Gloria. Mrs. Johnson, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you for coming. Gloria shook his hand firmly, sizing him up with a grandmother's discerning eye. Mr. Whitmore, I've heard a lot about you and your boy. Imani speaks highly of both of you. Please, call me Gregory. And this is my son, Tyler. Tyler stepped forward shyly. Hi, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you for sharing Imani with us. She's really helped me a lot. Something in Gloria's expression softened as she looked at the young man in front of her, so thin and fragile looking, with eyes that carried too much pain for his age. She saw echoes of Jamal in him, the same lost quality, the same desperate need for connection. You can call me Miss Gloria, honey. And I'm glad my granddaughter could help. She's got a good heart. They moved into the dining room, where Mrs. Evans had outdone herself with the meal. The table was set beautifully but not ostentatiously, with care taken to make the evening feel intimate rather than formal. As they sat down, an awkward silence fell over the group. It was Gloria who broke it. So, Gregory, Imani tells me you build computers or some such. My grandson tried to explain it to me once, but it all sounded like he was speaking a foreign language. Gregory smiled, relaxing slightly. I run a tech company that develops software for medical applications. We create systems that help hospitals track patient care and improve treatment outcomes. It's actually not too different from what you did as a nurse, just using technology instead of hands-on care. Now that I understand, Gloria said approvingly. Technology in service of people, not just money. That's good work. As dinner progressed, conversation began to flow more naturally. Gloria shared stories about Imani as a child, how she was always bringing home stray animals and befriending the lonely kids at school. Imani groaned with embarrassment, but Tyler was fascinated, seeing a different side of the woman who had become so important to him. Gregory talked about Tyler's mother, Rachel, and how she had volunteered at children's hospitals, reading to sick kids. She sounds like she was something special, Gloria said warmly. I'm sorry for your loss. Losing a spouse and a mother is heavy grief to carry. Thank you, Gregory said. We're learning to carry it better now, thanks to your granddaughter. Tyler, who had been quiet for most of the meal, suddenly spoke up. Miss Gloria, can I ask you something? About Jamal? The table went quiet. Imani looked at her grandmother with concern, but Gloria nodded slowly. You can ask, baby. Imani told me about him, about how he died, Tyler said carefully. Did you ever feel angry at him? For leaving? Gloria was silent for a long moment, her weathered hands folded on the table. I did, she finally said. For a long time, I was so angry I could hardly see straight. Angry at him for not telling me how bad things were. Angry at myself for not seeing the signs. Angry at the world for being so hard on a sweet 14-year-old boy that he felt death was his only option. But you know what I learned? What? Tyler asked, leaning forward. That anger was just grief wearing a different face. I wasn't really angry at Jamal. I was heartbroken. I was terrified. I was helpless to change what had happened. And once I let myself feel the real emotions underneath the anger, I could start to heal. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. I'm angry sometimes too. At Mom for leaving, at Dad for not being there, at myself for not being strong enough to handle it. But mostly I'm just sad. So sad. That's honest, Gloria said approvingly. That's healthy. You keep feeling those feelings, Tyler. Don't you swallow them down and pretend you're fine. You grieve loud and messy if you need to, because that's how you get through to the other side. Gregory reached over and squeezed Tyler's hand. I'm angry sometimes too, son. At the driver who hit your mom. At myself for not being able to protect her. At the universe for taking her when we still needed her so much. We can be angry together. The rest of the dinner passed with more tears and more laughter, the kind of emotional honesty that only comes when people decide to be vulnerable with each other. After the meal, Tyler asked if he could show Miss Gloria the memory wall. As they stood in front of the pictures, Tyler pointed out his favorite photo, one of Rachel at his 10th birthday party, chocolate cake smeared on her nose, laughing with absolute abandon. She was beautiful, Gloria said softly. You got her smile, you know. When you laughed during that movie Imani told me about, I bet you looked just like her. I hope so, Tyler said. I want to be like her. She was always so happy, so full of life. I want to learn how to be that way again. You will, Gloria assured him. It takes time, but you've got good people helping you. Your daddy's learning right alongside you, and Imani, well, she's special. She's got her grandmother's stubborn love and her mother's tender heart. You're in good hands. When it was time for Gloria and Imani to leave, there were hugs all around. Gregory walked them to the car, pulling Imani aside for a moment. Thank you for bringing your grandmother. She's remarkable, and I understand now where you get your strength and compassion. She's my hero, Imani said simply. Everything good in me comes from her. As they drove away, Gloria turned to her granddaughter with tears in her eyes. That boy is going to be okay. And that man is learning to be a father again. You did a good thing, baby girl. I'm proud of you. Back in the mansion, Tyler and Gregory stood at the memory wall together. I like Miss Gloria, Tyler said. She's real. She doesn't pretend everything is fine when it's not. I like her too, Gregory agreed. Tyler, I want you to know that I'm committed to this. To us. To rebuilding our family. Not the way it was, because it can never be exactly that again, but something new that honors your mother's memory while also moving forward. I want that too, Dad, Tyler said. I really do. They stood there in comfortable silence, two people learning to be a family again, one day at a time. 3 months into Tyler's recovery, things were generally moving in a positive direction. He was back to sleeping regular hours most nights, eating full meals, and engaging with Dr. Hayes in therapy with genuine openness. He had even expressed interest in returning to school part-time, maybe starting with online classes before going back to the building. But recovery is never linear, and setbacks are part of the process. The trigger came on a Wednesday, exactly 2 years and 3 months since Rachel's death. Tyler woke up that morning with a weight on his chest so heavy he could barely breathe. When Imani arrived at his room for their usual afternoon session, she found the door locked. Tyler. It's me. Can I come in? Not today, came his muffled voice from inside. I can't do this today. Imani recognized the signs immediately. Okay. I respect that. But I'm not leaving, so I'm going to sit right outside your door. You don't have to talk, but I'll be here. She settled on the floor in the hallway, her back against the wall beside his door. For an hour, there was only silence. Then Tyler's voice came, small and broken. Today's the day. 2 years and 3 months. They say the first year is hardest, but that's a lie. The second year is worse because everyone expects you to be over it by then. You're never going to be over it, Imani said gently. You're just learning to live alongside it. And there's no timeline for grief, Tyler. Anyone who says differently doesn't understand loss. I can't get out of bed, Tyler admitted. I woke up and looked at the ceiling and thought about having to get through an entire day of existing, and it felt impossible. Everything we've worked on for 3 months just disappeared, and I'm back where I started. No, you're not, Imani said firmly. You're in a hard moment, but you're not back at the beginning. You know how I know? Because you told me you're having a hard time. 3 months ago, you would have bitten someone instead. That's progress, Tyler. Real progress. There was a long pause, then the sound of the lock clicking open. Tyler appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas, his hair messy from lying down. His eyes were red from crying. Can you just sit with me? Not talk about it, just be here? Absolutely, Imani said, standing up and following him into the room. They sat on his bed, not talking, while Tyler cried quietly. Imani didn't try to fix it or make it better. She just sat with him in his pain, understanding that sometimes the most healing thing you can do is acknowledge that some days are just hard, and that's okay. After a while, Tyler's tears slowed, and he leaned against Imani's shoulder. Tell me about Jamal, he said quietly. Tell me about a hard day you had after he died. Imani took a breath. About 6 months after Jamal died, I was in the grocery store. I turned down the cereal aisle and saw his favorite brand, the one with the cartoon character on the box. I just stood there and cried right in the middle of the store. A complete stranger asked if I was okay, and I couldn't even explain. I bought the cereal anyway, took it home, and it sat in my cabinet for months because I couldn't bring myself to eat it or throw it away. What did you do with it eventually? I shared it with the kids at my grandmother's church during breakfast club. It felt like a way to honor Jamal, sharing something he loved instead of hoarding it like a treasure. It didn't make the pain go away, but it made it feel less pointless. Tyler was quiet, processing this. Mom loved lavender. She had this lotion she wore all the time, and the whole house used to smell like it. After she died, Dad threw all her stuff away. I wish I had kept something, anything that smelled like her. What if we looked online and found that brand of lotion? Imani suggested gently. It might be painful, but it might also be comforting. Tyler nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I'd like that. They spent the next hour researching lavender lotions online until Tyler recognized the bottle. Imani ordered it immediately, overnight shipping. For the rest of the day, they moved slowly, gently. They watched a nature documentary. They ordered pizza. They talked about nothing important and everything important. By evening, Tyler was exhausted but calmer. Gregory came home for dinner and immediately noticed Tyler's red eyes and subdued energy. Bad day? He asked sympathetically. Really bad day, Tyler confirmed. But I got through it. Imani helped. I'm glad, Gregory said. Tyler, you know it's okay to have bad days, right? Recovery isn't about never feeling sad again. It's about learning to handle the sadness when it comes. Dr. Hayes said something like that too, Tyler said. But it's hard to remember when I'm in the middle of it. That night, after Tyler had gone to bed, Gregory found Imani preparing to leave for the evening. Thank you for sitting with him today. Mrs. Evans told me you were outside his door for hours. That's my job, Imani said with a gentle smile. And honestly, it's more than a job at this point. Tyler's become important to me. Your whole family has. You've become important to us too, Gregory said sincerely. I hope you know that. You're not just staff, Imani. You're family. Imani felt warmth spread through her chest at his words. That means more than you know, Gregory. As she drove home that night, Imani reflected on how far they'd all come. Tyler was having a hard day, yes, but he was having it differently than he would have 3 months ago. He was learning to reach out instead of lashing in. He was learning that feeling pain didn't mean he was broken beyond repair. And that, she thought, was everything. 6 months after the biting incident, the Whitmore household had transformed in ways both visible and invisible. The mansion, once a cold showpiece that felt more like a museum than a home, now had life in it. Tyler's laughter echoed through the halls regularly. Gregory worked from home 3 days a week to be more present. The formal dining room saw daily use as family dinners became sacred time. And Imani, who had started as a maid and become so much more, was preparing for her own new beginning. She had enrolled in online college courses, studying psychology with the ultimate goal of becoming a licensed counselor. The classes were challenging but exhilarating, giving formal structure to the natural empathy she'd always possessed. Tyler loved hearing about her assignments and would often help her study, turning her flashcards into a game they played during their afternoon sessions. Dr. Hayes had been thrilled when Imani asked for mentorship, and the two women met monthly to discuss Imani's academic progress and her work with Tyler. Tyler himself was returning to school part-time, starting with 3 classes to ease back into academic life. The school had been accommodating, setting up a support plan that included regular check-ins with the counselor and permission to leave class if he felt overwhelmed. His classmates had been curious but mostly kind about his long absence. A few of his old friends had reached out, tentatively rebuilding connections that had frayed during his darkest months. One afternoon, Tyler found Imani in the library, surrounded by textbooks and notes. "Hey, can I talk to you about something?" "Always," Imani said, closing her laptop to give him full attention. Tyler sat down across from her, fidgeting with his hands. "I've been thinking about something for a while now. Remember when we talked about the community mental health center you went to after Jamal died?" "Of course. And how you said access to mental health care depends too much on money." Tyler continued. "I've been thinking about that a lot. About how I'm lucky because Dad can afford the best therapy and medication, but other kids who are suffering just as much might not get help because their families can't pay. That doesn't seem right." "It's definitely not right," Imani agreed. "But it's the reality of our healthcare system, especially for mental health services." "What if we changed that?" Tyler asked, his eyes bright with passion. "What if Dad and I started a foundation to help kids get mental health treatment regardless of their ability to pay? We could name it after Mom. She always cared about helping people, especially kids. It would be a way to honor her memory while also doing something good." Imani felt tears prick her eyes. "Tyler, that's an incredible idea. Have you talked to your dad about it?" "Not yet. I wanted to run it by you first, make sure it wasn't stupid." "It's the opposite of stupid," Imani assured him. "It's compassionate and thoughtful and exactly the kind of thing your mom would have loved." That evening at dinner, Tyler presented his idea to Gregory. His father listened intently, his expression growing more emotional as Tyler explained his vision for a foundation that would provide free or reduced-cost mental health services to adolescents in crisis. When Tyler finished, Gregory was openly crying. "Rachel would be so proud of you," Gregory said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." "Yes, absolutely yes. We'll do this together, as a family project. Imani, I hope you'll be involved too. We'll need someone who understands both the clinical side and the personal experience of navigating the mental health system." "I'd be honored," Imani said, her own eyes damp. Over the next few months, they threw themselves into planning the foundation. Gregory used his business connections to consult with mental health professionals, insurance experts, and non-profit specialists. Tyler researched existing programs and identified gaps in services. Imani, drawing on her coursework and personal experience, helped develop intake procedures that would be welcoming rather than intimidating for kids in crisis. They decided to call it the Rachel Whitmore Foundation for Youth Mental Health. The foundation's mission was clear: provide comprehensive mental health services to adolescents aged 13 to 18, regardless of their family's financial situation. Services would include individual therapy, family therapy, psychiatric medication management, and crisis intervention. They would partner with local schools to provide on-site counseling and education about mental health awareness. And critically, they would train staff to recognize and respond to warning signs of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. As the foundation took shape, something beautiful happened. Tyler found purpose in his pain. His depression didn't disappear, it was something he would likely manage his whole life, but it transformed from a crushing weight into something he could carry and use for good. He started speaking at school assemblies about his experience, breaking down the stigma around mental health struggles. He became an advocate, a voice for kids who were suffering in silence like he had. Imani's education progressed rapidly. She excelled in her courses, bringing real-world insight to academic theory. Her professors encouraged her to consider graduate school, perhaps specializing in adolescent trauma or grief counseling. The idea thrilled and terrified her in equal measure, but with Gregory's support and Tyler's encouragement, she began applying to master's programs. One evening, as they worked together on foundation paperwork in the library, Tyler looked up at Imani. "You know, if you hadn't stayed that day, if you'd run away when I bit you, I probably wouldn't be alive right now. I was planning to kill myself. I had pills hidden in my room. The day you sat with me, you saved my life." Imani felt her heart clench. "Tyler, I didn't know. I never told anyone except Dr. Hayes," Tyler admitted. "But I want you to know. You saw me when I was invisible to everyone else, including myself. You treated me like a person worth saving when I believed I was worthless. That changed everything. You've always been worth saving," Imani said fiercely. "Always. And look at you now, building something that will save other kids. You're turning your pain into purpose. That's incredible. I learned that from you," Tyler said simply. "From how you honor Jamal by helping others. I want to honor Mom the same way." As fall turned to winter, the foundation prepared for its official launch in the spring. The Whitmore family invited Imani and Gloria to the planning meetings, treating them as essential voices in the process. They were, in every way that mattered, a family bound not by blood but by love and shared commitment to healing and helping others. 1 year after the biting incident that changed everything, the Whitmore mansion was alive with celebration. The occasion was threefold: Tyler's high school graduation, his 1-year mark of consistent recovery and stability, and Imani's acceptance into a prestigious master's program in counseling psychology with a full scholarship plus stipend, thanks to Gregory's recommendation and her exceptional academic record. The formal launch of the Rachel Whitmore Foundation would happen the following week, but tonight was about family. The guest list was small and meaningful. Gloria was there, of course, dressed in her finest purple dress, beaming with pride at her granddaughter. Dr. Hayes attended, moved to see her patient thriving. Mrs. Evans and several staff members who had witnessed Tyler's journey were invited. A few of Tyler's friends from school came, young people who had supported him through his return to normal teenage life. And standing at the center of it all were Gregory, Tyler, and Imani, 3 people who had found each other in the darkest moment and built something beautiful from that darkness. Tyler stood to give a speech, his hands shaking slightly with nervousness but his voice strong. "A year ago, I was in the worst place of my life. I had lost my mom, I felt like I'd lost my dad to work, and I had completely lost myself to depression. I was drowning, and I didn't think anyone could see me or would care if they did. Then Imani walked into my room to clean, and I did something terrible. I hurt her because I was hurting and didn't know how else to express the pain eating me alive." The room was completely silent, everyone listening intently. Most people would have walked away. Most people would have protected themselves and let me face the consequences alone. But Imani stayed. She sat on the floor with me while I was at my absolute worst and asked what was hurting me inside. That question, that moment of someone seeing my pain instead of just my behavior, saved my life. Literally. Tyler's voice cracked with emotion, but he continued. "This year has been hard. Recovery isn't smooth or easy. I've had bad days, setbacks, moments where I felt like I was back at the beginning. But I had people who refused to give up on me. My dad, who learned to be present again even though his own grief was crushing him. Dr. Hayes, who gave me tools to manage my depression. And Imani, who showed me every single day that I was worth fighting for. He turned to face Imoni directly. You could have pressed charges. You could have taken the money Dad offered and left. You could have kept me at arm's length, doing your job but nothing more. Instead, you shared your own pain with me. You told me about Jamal, about your own journey through grief and guilt. You made me feel less alone. Because of you, I'm standing here today as a high school graduate, as someone who manages his mental health, as someone who has purpose and hope for the future. I can never repay you for that gift, but I promise to honor it by helping others the way you helped me. The room erupted in applause, and Imoni was crying openly. Tyler crossed to her and hugged her tight. Thank you for seeing me, he whispered. Thank you for staying. Thank you for letting me in, Imoni whispered back. Thank you for trusting me with your pain. Gregory stepped forward next, raising a glass. A toast to Tyler, who has shown more courage and strength this year than most people show in a lifetime. To Imoni, who brought light into our darkness and became family in the truest sense. And to Rachel, whose memory inspires everything we do and whose love lives on in the foundation we're building in her name. To healing, to hope, and to chosen family. Everyone raised their glasses, echoing to healing, to hope, and to chosen family. As the party continued, people mingled and shared stories. Gloria cornered Gregory with a gleam in her eye. You did good by my granddaughter, she said. And by your boy. This could have gone so differently, but you all chose the hard path of healing instead of the easy path of anger and blame. That takes character. Imoni made it possible, Gregory said simply. She saw what we couldn't see in ourselves. I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life. Dr. Hayes pulled Imoni aside for a private conversation. I've been in this field for 20 years, and I've never seen someone with your natural ability for this work. You're going to make an extraordinary therapist. Promise me you'll stay in touch as you go through your master's program. I'd love to continue mentoring you. I'd love that, Imoni said warmly. You've taught me so much already. As the evening wore on, Tyler found himself looking around the room at all these people who cared about him. A year ago, he couldn't have imagined this scene. He couldn't have imagined wanting to be alive, let alone thriving. He thought about his mother, wondering if she could see this somehow. He hoped she could. He hoped she knew that her death had nearly destroyed him, but that ultimately, he had chosen to honor her by living fully, by helping others, by becoming the kind of person she had raised him to be. Later, after most guests had left, the core family gathered in the living room in front of the memory wall. Gregory made an announcement. I have one more surprise. Imoni, when you graduate with your master's degree, I'd like to offer you the position of clinical director for the Rachel Whitmore Foundation. You'd oversee all counseling services, train our therapists, and help shape the program based on your academic training and personal understanding of what works. It's a significant position with a competitive salary, and I can't think of anyone more qualified or more aligned with our mission. Imoni's eyes widened. Gregory, I don't even know what to say. That would be a dream job. Say yes, Tyler urged. Please say yes. No one understands this like you do. No one cares like you do. Yes, Imoni said, laughing through tears. Absolutely yes. Thank you. Thank you both so much. They talked late into the night, making plans for the foundation, for Imoni's education, for Tyler's college applications. They talked about Rachel, about Jamal, about how the people we lose continue to shape us even in their absence. They talked about the future with genuine excitement, something that had seemed impossible just a year earlier. As Imoni prepared to leave, Tyler walked her to her car. Hey, I was thinking about something. We should create a scholarship through the foundation. For kids who've lost siblings to suicide. So they can access therapy and maybe prevent other families from going through what you and your grandmother went through. Imoni felt her throat tighten with emotion. Tyler, that's perfect. Jamal would love that. We can call it the Jamal Johnson Memorial Scholarship. I think Mom and Jamal would be friends if they could meet, Tyler said thoughtfully. They both cared about helping people. They both believed in kindness. I like to imagine them somewhere together, watching us do this work and being proud. I think they are proud, Imoni said softly. I think they're both very proud of you. She drove home that night feeling lighter than she had in years. Her grandmother was already asleep, but Imani sat at their small kitchen table and wrote in her journal, something Dr. Hayes had encouraged her to do regularly. Today marked 1 year since the day that changed everything. 1 year since Tyler bit me in a moment of desperation and pain, and I chose to stay instead of run. That choice led to all of this: Tyler's recovery, Gregory's awakening as a father, the foundation that will help countless kids, my education and career path, and a chosen family that has become as real as any blood relation. Jamal, if you're listening, I hope you know that your death wasn't meaningless. It taught me to see pain in others, to recognize when someone is crying for help even if they can't say the words. Because I learned those lessons, I could help Tyler. And now Tyler and I together will help so many more kids who are suffering the way you suffered. I miss you every day, little brother, but I'm turning that missing into something good. I hope that makes you proud. She closed the journal and looked at the photo of Jamal on their refrigerator, a bright-eyed 14-year-old boy with his whole life ahead of him. Thank you for teaching me what pain looks like, she whispered. Because of you, I could save someone else. Rest easy, Jamal. Your big sister is doing the work. In the Whitmore mansion across town, Tyler lay in bed looking at the ceiling, no longer feeling the crushing weight that used to pin him there. He thought about the long journey from that terrible day to this beautiful present. He thought about the foundation that would launch next week, about the lives it would change, about his mother's legacy living on in meaningful work. He picked up his phone and texted Imani, "Thank you for everything. Good night, family." Her response came quickly, "Good night, family. Proud of you. Always." Gregory, working late in his office, looked at a photo of Rachel on his desk. "We did it, honey," he said softly. "Our boy is going to be okay. Better than okay. He's going to change the world. And we found the most unexpected angel to help us get here. I know you sent her to us. Thank you for that last gift. 1 year can change everything. One moment of choosing compassion over anger, connection over isolation, healing over hurt." The Whitmore family and Imani had all been broken in different ways, but they had found each other in their brokenness and built something whole. The scars remained, the bite mark on Imani's arm had faded but would never fully disappear, but scars are just evidence of healing. They are proof that something that was once torn apart has been carefully, lovingly put back together. And sometimes, what has been broken and mended is stronger than it ever was before. The Rachel Whitmore Foundation would open its doors the following week, ready to help kids like Tyler who were drowning in darkness and desperately needed someone to see them. Ready to honor the memories of Rachel and Jamal by preventing other families from experiencing similar losses. Ready to prove that mental health care should be a right, not a privilege. And at the center of it all would be 3 people who understood that the most powerful force in healing is simple: someone choosing to stay when they could have walked away. Someone seeing your pain and refusing to abandon you to it. Someone believing you're worth saving when you've stopped believing it yourself. That's what family does. That's what love does. That's what changes everything.